know the wheels of the government roll slow. I'd like to call this meeting to order Tuesday, September the 5th, 2023. If you'll stay with me, the mayor will lead us in invocation and pledge.
Please bow with me. Lord, thank you once again for the wonderful city that we live in. Thank you for the wonderful state that we live in and the country that we have, that we're all free and able to meet in open discussion like we always do. We ask that you watch over our staff as they keep the city moving forward. We ask your first responders, especially tonight, Lord, as we honor someone that's been serving our city for over 28 years. And please watch over him and his family as they enjoy the next step of their life. We have said, all we do in your name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mayor. I want to welcome everybody here. Kathy, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Shute.
Here.
Bishop.
Here.
Avery.
Here.
Mendel.
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
Cordell.
Here. Okay, if there's anyone here that has business that's not on the agenda that wants to speak to us tonight, there's forms that you can fill out, but if you're on the agenda, you don't have to fill those forms out. Thank you. Mayor's report.
Got a few things. The motorsports water thing was this weekend. Pretty good event. I got to see it on Friday. Got to talk to the organizers. Friday night had a little mishap with about 3.5 inches of rain and I think a half hour, so kind of blew tents around and that stuff. But TDC kind of helped put that together. So it's a great event for just not the city but for the community. Brings in people from all over the world. The organizers are actually from Czechoslovakia. So it's neat to see different countries coming to Sebring, and they love coming here. I talked to him, and he said we just absolutely love this just because of the people that are here, and the what we do. Also, I was with Habitat for Humanity, an AmeriCorps group came into town, and I believe they're still here till the middle of this month, helping out build homes. It's a bunch of young people that pretty much it's a blessing for them that they go to different cities to help out different construction, and it's really kind of a neat to talk to them, and it's a calling for them, and they do a great job. A couple other things we have. I'll be signing a proclamation for Suicide Prevention Month, which is this month. It's a sad thing that we have to sign something like this, but we need support, and if you look at our downtown, one of our staff members had recommended turning the lights. We can turn the lights different colors, so you'll see them green and purple, and which are our colors of Suicide Prevention Month. So we appreciate Toby for what he suggested and doing, and I have, with kind of great pleasure, but I'd like to ask for Officer Hart to please come up. So, and Carl, if you'd come up also. And if you want to bring your wife, you can bring her up too. Come on up. She's the one that has to put up with you full time now. It's my pleasure to be associated with both these guys. Curtis, not you. Curtis has not only helped protect us for over 28 years, but he's also a good friend. So, and proclamation is, whereas Curtis Hart began his career with the Sebring Police Department as a dispatcher in February 1995, as a police officer in September 1995. Where Curtis Hart has served the citizens of the city of Sebring in his department for over 28.5 years with the honor and distinction. Whereas Curtis Hart is retiring from his position as police commander on September 30th, 2023. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor, city clerk, and members of the city council of Sebring do hereby convey their sincere appreciation for the years of dedicated public service rendered to the city and its citizens. So he keeps the number one guy straight, but Carl, I try.
I can't thank Curtis enough for his contributions over the years. And when I say over the years, I mean a lot of years. 20 years ago, Curtis and I were investigations together, and he actually helped keep me on the right track day in and day out. And that's been especially true over the last 6.5 years as my number 2. He brings a level of common sense, empathy, and a lot of compassion to the department, and we're going to miss that. Tough shoes to fill. I thank you so much, Curtis. Thank you. I don't like the spotlight, but I do appreciate my family, number one, for putting up with me over the years. The city managers and everybody just put up with me. But it's been a great ride, and I'm ready to go.
That's all I have.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, thank you. Okay, councilman's concerns and comments, liaison reports. Let's start with you.
Good evening. We're so glad you're here. Before I was elected to city council, I was a regular citizen who just thought everything in the city just kind of ran by magic. And I never gave thought to much of what went on. But as you well know, we had a hurricane threat this last week. And I just want to commend all the people in the city, Public Works, utilities, fire, police, all the different ones. I probably left somebody out, but it takes a lot of coordination to keep things safe and to keep everybody advised of what's going on. And of course, this is getting to be a little bit of an active fall hurricane season. We have another threat maybe coming up, and we just really need to be so thankful for our city folks who work very hard for us. And remember, there's a lot that goes into keeping the city open and running smoothly. So I really do appreciate our different departments.
Thank you, Terry.
Well said.
Harrison?
No report.
No report?
No report.
No, sir.
Thank you. All right, well, we'll just move right along then, and we'll consider a motion for the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second it.
Okay, I got a motion, a second. Kathy, will you poll the board?
Bishop,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Mendel.
Here, yes, yes, sorry.
Stewart.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, there's no old business, new business. We'll start with 10A, the audit financial statement for Sebring. Ms. Robinson and Ms. Flowers. Flower, sorry, I put an S on there. Fowler. I'll get it right in a
Julie,
minute.
call her Julie.
I graduated from Sebring.
That hurts.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. In your packet were the audited financial statements for fiscal year end 9/30/2022. And there should be a PowerPoint presentation that I'm actually going to turn it over to Julie Fowler, our auditor with Clifton Larson Allen.
Good evening, I'm Julie Fowler with Clifton Larson Allen, and I'm going to present your financial statements. The information I'm presenting tonight is very summarized, so we do recommend that you look to that full document before making any financial decisions. So as soon as we get the slides going, I'll jump right into the financial statement overview. Right, if you want to go forward a couple. There you go. Thank you. So first up, we have the statement of net position. This is a snapshot in time as of September 30th, 2022. And this combines all of the funds and activities of the city, similar to if you were operating a for-profit business. We know government isn't a for-profit business, but the accounting standard setters try to make some assumptions so that when bonding agencies and people of that nature are looking at municipal financial statements, they can compare that to things going on in the private sector. So if we look at where you ended up on September 30th, your total assets and deferred outflows came in at $92.3 million. The largest portion of that is, of course, invested in the capital assets of the city at $51 million. You did have some significant capital projects during the year, including some street and stormwater improvements, water utility systems. Lots of capital projects are going on as the city continues to grow. Down in the liabilities section, total liabilities and deferred inflows came in at $25 million. A large portion of that is related to pensions. You did have about $4.5 million of other long-term debt. About half of that will be paid off in the 2023 fiscal year. So the city is really bringing down that debt amount that is owed. So that leaves you a net position of $67 million. Of that, $47 million is the net investment in the city's capital assets, meaning that's not available for spending. You're not gonna sell your water system to pay bills next week. You have about $5.7 million that is restricted, and that leaves about $14 million of unrestricted net position at the end of 2022. So next, let's look at the city's general fund. This is on the basis of accounting that you budget. So that first column shows your final adopted budget. The second column are your actual results. And the third column is the variance between the two. So your actual revenue came in at $14.4 million, which was about $3.5 million greater than the budget. You had some increases not only in the ad valorem, but also in utility taxes, other taxes, and then the big item was the $2.9 million of ARPA revenue that was recognized in 2022. Expenditures came in at about $12 million, which was under the budget. That was cost savings across all departments made up that variance. The net transfers in and out were about $693,000, giving you an overall change or increase in your fund balance of just under $3 million for the year. So if you look at the next slide, that increase brings the total fund balance to about $10.5 million. In government, we break that up into various categories based on the spending constraints. About 24% of that, or $2.5 million, is assigned for specific purposes, leaving about 75%, or $7.8 million, categorized as unassigned. Now, again, I just want to point out that your ARPA funds make up a significant portion of that, and you already had plans on how that additional cash influx was going to be used. So that doesn't mean there's just lots of money sitting around. You did have plans for that for the future. On the next slide, we see a trend of your unassigned fund balance, and this is one of the ways that we measure a general fund's health, is by looking at how many months of expenditures do you have in your unassigned fund balance at year end. The city has a policy that you'll maintain at least 3 months of expenditures in the fund balance, so that dark blue bar represents that minimum amount that you need, or about $3 million, and the lighter blue represents the amount in excess of the minimum, so that's about $4.8 million at year end. All of that to say, your general fund was in a very healthy financial position as of 9/30/22. Next, let's look at a couple of the enterprise funds. The first one will be your water and wastewater fund. Overall, the operating income came in at about $3.3 million. You saw some increases in your charges for services. The fund's doing really well. You also had some kind of one-time connection fees and things like that to give you an overall increase or change in net position of $3.5 million. The ending net position there is about $40 million. Of course, keep in mind about $31 million of that is invested in the capital assets of the system, again, not available for spending. But you do have about $8.6 million of unrestricted net position, so a very good, solid position for that fund to be in. Next, we have the solid waste fund. Your overall operating income there was $336,000, giving you a increase in the net position of $317,000 for an ending net position of $1.8 million. About half of that is invested in the capital assets of the system, giving you about $924,000 of unrestricted net position in that fund. Any questions on the numbers before we move on to the audit results? Just as a reminder, the purpose of an audit is for us to express opinions based on various procedures that we perform. This year, we performed an audit of the financial statements. On to the next one, please. Thank you. Under government auditing standards, we also were required to perform a federal single audit. In a year where you spend more than $750,000 of federal financial expenditures, we're required to perform a compliance audit. The program that was audited was your Coronavirus State Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, also known as the ARPA funding. And then finally, we perform an examination of compliance with certain Florida statutes. On the next slide, you'll see the reports that we issued. On the financial statements, we've issued an unmodified opinion, which means we believe that the financial statements are in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. In our report on internal control under government auditing standards, there were 2 findings that are reported. One relates to the timeliness of completing the audit. It was due to the state on September 30th, so it was a little delayed getting to the state. And the second item related to audit adjustments, we did identify one error in the accounting that needed to be corrected for the financial statements to be in conformity with GAAP. On the single audit, we believe that the city is in compliance with all the requirements of that ARPA grant, so that's great news. And finally, we believe that you are in compliance with the statute for investment of public funds. The final graph I have here is a summary of a letter that you'll receive. It's our report to you as the group charged with governance of the city, and it really talks about how the audit went more than about the numbers themselves. And the one item I did want to point out to you tonight is that the city implemented a new accounting standard during the year for leases, so that changed the way that your leases, especially receivables, things like your tower leases, are recorded in the financial statements. It's very technical, so if you want to get more into that, I'm happy to have a conversation offline about that. So I just want to take a minute to thank Penny and Jared and the rest of the city staff for all of the cooperation and hospitality they show us during the course of the audit. It's always a pleasure to work with everyone here. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I got a very minor question.
Sure.
On page 12, the materials weaknesses in the internal control, and you explained what they were. But is that a normal thing? I mean, I think it just was circumstances that we weren't able to get it in on time. Then you found an error that had to be corrected.
Yes.
So that just,
Yes,
it's
these
not
are-
a serious,
Right, these are internal control matters that we just need to point out to you. It's not that there was fraud or anything egregious going on. It's just something that the city could do to strengthen the policies and procedures that are in place to ensure that your financial statements are prepared under the time frame and the frameworks that they need to be.
thank you.
I have a question, which maybe is a question for Penny, but the unassigned fund balance, that doesn't include things from the capital improvement plan. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the audited financial statements for fiscal year ended September 30th, 2022 as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, Kathy. There's no other questions. All aboard.
Bishop.
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Handle.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Kellogg.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie. Good job.
Yep. Okay, we'll move on to 10B, and it's the opposed to the future potential annexation of Woodhaven MHP. Mr. Mosley.
Can I pass out a pamphlet to the city council?
Yeah, sure.
You did this.
Hey, can I give you the right one?
Yes, sir.
us who you are.
Okay, I'm Dennis Mosley, manager of Woodhaven Estates Mobile Home Park in Sebring.
Thank you.
And when I first realized I had a threat of annexation, I started calling around and couldn't get any answers, and the answers I got were short and indecisive, and to be honest with you, darn right rude. However, I've called most of the city councilmen, and along with Scott here, and everybody has been upfront, very cordial, and I don't know if they agree with me or not, but they certainly did listen politely. Okay. In your packet, there's a note on top of how we got to this point. And the next paper, my wife, this is about 3 years ago, was tutoring a 6th grader that goes to a city school here locally. And they were studying about taxation without representation. So actually he did that paper for me. The next one is Edries versus Sebring Utilities Commission. And at that time, they were denied shutting off the water to a project that had switched from Sebring Utilities Commission's electric to Florida Power. And then the next one is a couple of trucks that will be of no use to us, that I've got quite an investment in. As if we get annexed in the city, we'd be no longer able to transfer our own trash. And the next one is some repairs that we make periodically of damage caused by Sebring Utilities Water Department. And then we have the declaration of covenants, and then we have several letters from residents that are affected by this annexation. For those that don't have a pamphlet, how we got to this point is about 1979 Sebring Utilities Commission was overfinanced. In an attempt to recover from their debt, as a sales clerk, they offered water services to any development that would take their electric, which was at a higher cost than Florida Power's, which is also in the area. Sebring Utility Commission was eventually dissolved due to their overwhelming debt. Sebring Utilities Commission was later, and then I guess we were required to pay a transition fee in order to pay off their debt, which was added to the electric bill monthly. The city took over Sebring Utilities water service, and a few years later, the city also purchased Highlands Utilities, which was a privately owned company that provided sewer service for Woodhaven Estates and the surrounding area. Now that they have control over our water and sewer, the city is turning off our water in order to take away our right to vote and force annexation. And the utility company refuses to service. The utility company cannot refuse service. According to the Edwards versus Sebring Utilities, it states that the utility company cannot refuse service because of some other matter not related to the water. And that was done in August of 1970. That was decided. When annexed into the city, our property taxes will increase in excess of $100,000. The city would take over our right to haul garbage, add 16% to our electric bill. To the electric bill. And as you know, the city has a increasing homeless problem, which is increasing rapidly. People are being simply priced out of their homes. Like a financial predator, this city tax increase is sucking the life out of retirees' independence. Residents can't sell their home, which is a third party, and I don't know how that the city can go after a third party that has nothing to do with Woodhaven Estates' relationship with the city and hold up their equity. For example, I had a resident come to me when this first started, and he was pretty upset. He says, my wife is ill, we've got to move back with our kids, and we've got our house sold, and the city says you're not in compliance, so they won't turn the water on for my purchaser. So he lost his sale. I seen another of my residents at the grocery store in the packaged meat line. And this person does commercial cleaning, lives by themselves, and she's looking at the packaged meat, and she says to me, she says, have you seen the cost of this food lately? I said, no, I haven't really paid any attention to it. And she puts the meat back. And I thought, how sad. My rent is $405 a month. The average rent is over $600. So even though I'm saving her $200 a month, she can still, it's a struggle for her to pay for her groceries. I've got other people in there that have to go out of town for the medical issues. Sometimes they have to stay overnight or several days. They're trying to figure out how to pay for the overnight expenses, gas, food, lodging. So this does not, these heavy taxes do not help with the homeless situation. So if you believe in American, you might be able to force this through. I don't know yet. I'm assuming you can, but it's not what the people that you're supposed to be serving want. I do not have a legal mind, but if I did something like this, I would probably be charged with some kind of misdemeanor at the least, from taking advantage of retirees. If you believe in the American way and the right to vote, and no taxation without representation, and government for the people, by the people, that the city should not extort money from retirees. If you don't think China should take Taiwan by force, and if you're honest with yourself, you probably don't think the city of Sebring could take Woodhaven Estates by force. If anybody's got a different opinion on this, I would be just darn good to be happy to be educated on it. But I can't see where this helps anybody. Any questions? Okay, thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
I think, Dennis, if you don't mind just a minute, I'm
Yes,
speaking
sir.
here. It's almost a scare tactic, the way you're approaching this thing. This is not an annexation agreement. This is an agreement that sometime maybe in the future. But as far as you say costs go up, so do our costs go up. What if you do have an out if you put in your own package plant? What would that cost you to do for water and sewer?
Well, it seems as though everything today, what seems right is wrong, and what seems wrong is right, and everything is upside down. I believe it would take years to get. I used to manage a water system and a sewer system. I have the capability to do it. I don't think I'd ever be able to get it in.
At an extreme cost, probably also.
Extreme cost and years of zoning
Right.
requirements.
But I think the people here need to understand that the city is not moving forward with annexation. Now down the road it may happen, but we've been servicing Sebring Hills for, how long has that been there? The water and sewer system. I mean, it's been there for 20, 30 years, and we have not annexed that in.
I believe that.
So,
And
but we have to pay for our system somehow, and if you're utilizing a
The
system,
All right, well, the system that you have was already in place before the city took it over.
but they've improved it. The city's worked on it and improved it, so.
Okay, well, if they have, it's not in my particular area, but that doesn't mean they have to upgrade other places.
Correct.
Okay. And it makes sense that if you're gonna go into a development with a city, and the developer wants to take your water and sewer, and if it was arranged ahead of time, it makes sense that you would have to, you could get an agreement for annexation. But that's not the case here. The case here was, you take our electric and pay more for it, and then pay off our loan, we'll provide you with water.
And that was the whole city, that just was not Woodhaven. The whole
That's
city
true.
had that stipend,
That's
so.
true, that's true.
I lived in the city and I had to pay that, so.
So did
I know,
You
I
know.
know.
I mean, I
But-
think everybody here that lived in the city or had that service had to pay
Okay.
for it, so.
But, you know, I've noticed over the years, at this point, when you kick the can down the road, sometimes you catch it a little quicker than you want to. And, you know, I was looking at it doesn't take much to change to get us annexed in really quick. And with the effort that went into writing this Article of Covenants, somebody's looking at dollar signs to get this annexation in as through as possible. And, you know, it just takes one little change, like some property owner wanted to develop his property next to us, and they'll go ahead and annex. But I can't, you know, I offer affordable housing for retirees.
We understand that.
And they come
We
here,
appreciate that, so.
and they come here and they spend a lot of money either way. And some of them are hurting. So,
And I
this has
think
got,
you-
this,
I-
not to interrupt you, sir.
I think we just want to let you know, and I can't speak for everybody on the council, but I think everybody, I have spoken to most people, that there is no intent at this time by this council to move forward with annexation.
That's
And,
true.
and even to annex, you are not contingent to the city, so there are properties in between you and the city that would have to be annexed first.
There's, yes,
So-
there's a place, you have the, lake, you have the, Fountain Plaza. You're talking about annexing that, and Jim Sacco's ready to annex.
Right.
Okay, right behind him is Sebring Gardens. If he was to sell that, you would go in and tell him that if he sells it, he has to annex. So then you're right at my front door.
And that's typically not the way, if they sell it,
Well,
we
that's
don't
what
force,
the-
we don't
that's-
force that annexation that way.
That's what
So-
that's what the Article of Covenant says. If the property changes hands, they will not turn the water back on for the purchaser,
Unless they sign the covenant,
unless
correct?
they sign the covenant.
Right. they
That
have to
doesn't
sign
mean we're
it.
gonna
It's not
annex.
saying we're
That's
annexing.
the account. If the change on if the name on the account
Changes.
changes, then the declaration of covenant is required by
But
the
it's not
landowner.
an annexation agreement.
It is not an annexation agreement, no.
Correct.
But it gives the green light to annexation, and it takes your right to vote away.
But we've had that, I mean, we've had that outside the city, like I said, Sebring Hills and several other areas that have been there for probably as long as what you all have, had the water and sewer.
We've had
And,
it
and
since
we have not
19
annexed that in,
Okay,
so.
yeah, we've had it, they brought water and sewer to that property in 1979,
So, okay.
thereabouts.
Right.
Now,
The country club, too.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like an open-end contract. I mean, who would sign something that says, okay, at a time of your choosing, you can tax me $100,000 a year and not give me any choice in the matter? I mean, no businessman with common logical sense would sign that. Now, I may not have any choice, but if it was in the public sector, you wouldn't sign it.
You couldn't operate a mobile home park with the density that you have without potable water and sewer.
That's true.
So if they had said the same deal back then, would you have not developed the mobile home park at all?
Well, I wasn't there then,
Right?
but knowing what I know, I probably would have put a water and sewer plant in myself.
And
I-
you still
I-
can,
And I
right?
think, because I did that for years.
Sure. And
My
there's
first
nothing
job
that
every
says-
morning was to pull the toilet paper off the basket.
There's nothing that requires you to use the city water and sewer, right?
Currently, other than the fact that it would be, I haven't tried it, but it'd be very difficult to get a permit, and it would be very expensive at this point. And it's kind of like, you know, if a drug company offers drugs to people for a number of years and they get them used to using them, and all of a sudden they say, hey, we're going to triple the price, with no reason to triple it. It's kind of like that. You know, it's kind of like, okay, they're gonna provide you the water and sewer, but then they're gonna add the property tax to it, the city. It's kind of like doubling the rate.
Or you've gone a long time without having been annexed in and paying city taxes.
all the bills are paid, and we're, you know, I think we've been good citizens
Sure.
for the utility company.
Well, Mr. Mosley, to your point, you said in your remarks just now that you thought it would be reasonable if a new developer came in, that they would have to sign a covenant to get services.
That seems reasonable.
And so, to Bob Swain's point just now, you don't think it would have been reasonable that maybe we are correcting mistake of the previous council from not requiring you to do that in the past? The only difference is just timeframes.
Yes.
And to echo,
Okay.
I can only speak for myself. I have no intention of annexing your property. It hasn't
The,
been discussed at all.
the-
And there are hundreds or maybe thousands of other properties that have these covenants that we have no intention of annexing.
Okay.
Just allows us the option if that becomes appropriate for the city in the future.
There's two answers for that.
Okay.
The first one is, we paid off the debt for Sebring Utilities Commission. The agreement was, take our electric and we'll give you water. No questions asked, that was it. Okay? Nothing about annexation. If I would have been here then, and they said, hey, you gotta annex that, you know, when we're ready, then I probably would have put in the water and sewer plant, but I wasn't here, I didn't get here till '85. Okay? And then we also paid a, what do they call it, a fee to get each water meter put in and each sewer hooked up. So we paid a lot for it, and plus we paid to put in the pipe. At least my predecessor did. The other answer is, as I mentioned, Avon Park, the last city council people were all about annexation. They were trying to annex everything they could get a hold of. The council people that are in there now aren't interested in annexation. So again, we got an open-end contract that only favors the city, and if we get a different council people in here, that could all change.
Well, I understand your point, but I don't think I would not be comfortable giving an exception, because if we do that, then
Yeah, that's
you
a
know,
problem.
we'll have 100 people who
Well, it
come
looks,
before
it's
us and ask
kind
the
of
same
like,
thing.
it's kind of like somebody stuck their neck out too far on this and don't know how to pull it back.
Well,
And-
if I
and it's
understand
at-
correctly,
and
this
it's
has already
at-
been fought in court.
It has, we've lost, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I've been talking to the FMO, which is the Federation of Manufactured Homeowners. They're widely represented throughout Florida. The people I've been talking to do not think it's proper for you to hold up the equity of a mobile home owner to sell their property because they can't get water service to get to me.
Well, I mean, to your point, I would say that the courts have already decided this.
Not on that part. Nobody's ever talked about that.
Okay. Well, I understand your concerns. I don't agree with them. I understand them, but I couldn't support saying we would never annex, because that opens up a can of worms for us.
Okay.
You know, I just wanted to weigh in just a little bit, and I've lived in several mobile home communities and just love them and love the people. They seem to be nicer. I don't know, I love the mobile home communities. But I'm old-time Sebring. I was raised here and love it here and have a lot of friends that would like to see our city and area stay the same. And unfortunately, but fortunately too, we are going to be growing and developing as a city, and we have to look to the future and how to make it all work. And it's more complex than I ever dreamed. And there, to me, one of the big deciding issues is the fact that we have all these other contracts also, that if we made an exception with you, would be a real problem. And just like they were all saying, and I've been trying ever since you were kind enough to call me and have a nice discussion with me, and I didn't quite have enough time to come out to your place, but it just sounds wonderful. But I've been trying to learn as much as I can about it, and while I so understand your point of view, then sitting on the other side and trying to see how to make the city work for the long-time future plans, and the fact that there's so many other properties watching what happens here. And the fact is that all the expenses are going up for the city like you wouldn't believe. So somebody has to pay for all of this, the water, the sewer, And, you know, it's a difficult thing, but we do so appreciate what you're trying to do with having a wonderful place to live that's moderately priced. And the retiree and personal and the fixed income is in a spot in today's economy and country, that's for sure. But, you know, I think I would have to be for the way it stands now, just because we would have all kind of problems if we made an exception here, just for one of the issues. And as a city, we will be growing in the future, but there isn't any kind of, but you're right about city council and your government. You know, it's who gets in and who makes the plans, and I understand your wariness there, but there are just a lot of things to consider here. But thank you so much for coming and explaining to us.
In the last few years, since I've been on council, several of the mobile home parks have demolished their sewer plants and tied into us because of the rules and regulations that they have to go through and maintain and stuff. So that would be doing that would also be a cost to your people, you know. So it's a kind of a catch-22, but I agree with Terry. It's kind of hard to make an exception with one person. It just opens a can of worms for us. And you know, I appreciate knowing all these people here. I know everyone is struggling financially. The news said that 61% of the American families are living paycheck to paycheck now, and everything's gone up. You know, the cost of everything. I run a business, and my cost has went up tremendously, but I have to adjust for that. So I don't see where we could change or that at all.
You know, I want to just say one more thing. You know, I've had my differences with people on city council here, but for the most part, they are a very caring bunch of people that really want the best for the city and for the citizens. And I've seen them go out of their way to try to accommodate people and to see what's the best solution overall. So I know city councils change, and that's scary. But I do have to say that what I've observed with Scott, the city administrator, and the mayor and the city council, they have gone out of their way to try to be considerate and careful and reasonable in their plannings. So I just wanted to add that in.
I had that same feeling, that the people on this council care about the people that they're serving.
If I'm not mistaken, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, when Avon Park was going all out to annex property, the city manager was the push on that, not the council. City manager, and he's gone now, so they've, you know, the council's backed off, and like the other council said, well, you know, you're way out there. I don't know that me or you will see that time.
You mean Woodhaven Estates is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think, you know, it's going to be a long time. The mayor, like the mayor said, it's going to be a long time before that ever happens, because there's a lot more going to happen first. So, but thank you for coming.
All right, well, thank you for listening to me.
Okay.
I'm just trying to, sometimes I feel like we're headed to the United States of China.
Yeah.
And
Can almost
you know, it's
agree.
like every time we turn around, we've lost another say in the government.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate you listening to me.
Well, thank you.
And giving
Thank
giving
you,
me the
Mr.
time.
Landis.
Thank you.
Okay, there was nothing on that, so we'll go to 10C, the resolution 2023-25, increasing the non-ad valorem assets for residential solid waste service, and authorizing council president to sign a certificate to non-ad valorem assessment roll for solid waste. Ms. Penny?
Good evening again, and I think you just covered
don't
everything
you
I
know-
needed to
Yeah,
say.
give them a few minutes.
Just give them a few minutes.
Okay, hang on.
Thank you all for coming.
Me now.
Thank you.
Slow that one up. Yeah. Where's that guy? He has to duck and go through the door. Oh, wait. I don't think they basketball.
Don't drink the water.
Can you make notes on that?
He'll duck.
See, that's so funny.
See? He's used to. And how many times do you reckon he hit his head before he?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah, I know, wait till the crowd goes out, yeah.
Bunch of nice people.
Apologize for the interruption.
That's okay.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. I'm gonna look all this over.
You're up.
Good evening again. I think that you covered everything that I really needed to state, but during the budget workshops, it was discussed that on the solid waste assessment, that the council wanted to increase that per unit rate to $225 annually, and that's what this resolution does, as well as authorizing council president to sign the certificate to non-ad valorem assessment roll that will be submitted to the property appraiser's office.
Anyone have any questions?
Move to approve resolution 2023-25 as presented.
Second.
Motion and second. Anyone in the audience have anything to say? Kathy?
Bishop,
Yes.
Avery,
Yes.
Mendel,
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. There's no business from the audience. City attorney.
Yes, sir. Agenda item 12A is a proposed second amendment to development agreement. This regards the Las Villas development. You saw the substance of this at your August 15 meeting, and this is the proposed amendment itself.
Okay. Any questions?
Move to approve the second amendment to development agreement between the City of Sebring and Green Group Development LLC as presented.
Second.
Motion and second.
Bishop,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Mendel,
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. Okay, city administrator's business.
Good evening, council. Agenda item 13A is workshop for use of Lake Jackson and public parks. As you are aware, Councilman Havery and I have met with the proprietors of Lakeview Water Sports. At this point, we've come to the conclusion that it would be best to hold a workshop for you all and for the public to participate in coming up with some rules and regulations on the use of Lake Jackson and or parks within the city limits. And we're proposing Thursday, September 14th at 5:30 p.m. in City Council chambers.
I think we're gonna open a can of worms. We're gonna have another waterfront.
I think it's needed, though. We think.
We already have rules and regulations.
I don't-
We have things set up already.
I don't think there's things set up in this regard, though. One of the issues is the potential, is the use of a public park for commercial purposes, and whether or not council wishes to regulate that or not.
What do we have in the way of ordinances that you were talking about?
They're operating a business out of a residential.
Yeah.
Well, they're saying they're running the business on city-owned, on the Veterans Beach side. not
But
their
all their stuff is on residential.
I've been out there, it's
And
not, it's
there's
on
that-
their side, it's on the city side.
But that's, we already have issues with city-owned property that the public can't use. And if we give them, if we say they can use that property, then we cut the public out again on property that our citizens have bought and paid for. And now they can't go on it because we're letting a
Well,
business
I
there.
think that's part of the reason why we need to have this workshop.
There's
to
nothing that
talk
would
that out.
prohibit them from operating a business at the moment.
So I think it's really a twofold thing. One, are we going to allow, what do we need to put in place to limit or to allow businesses to use city-owned property? And then the second thing would be, what are we gonna do in this situation? If council wants to entertain the idea of that business, I don't think there's nothing preventing them from using that speech or city pier for commercial purposes, and I think that's what we need to put our limitations on and give good, clear guidance, what that looks like.
Right, and I agree, and, you know, because even if it's one business right now, what if 10 people decide to do that every Saturday, or 10 businesses,
That's
you know
what
what I
I'm
mean?
saying.
We need, and there are no rules preventing that at this moment.
Yes, there is. There's ordinances that say they can't do it.
I think the workshop, the agenda items for the workshop, as far as the debate goes, I think our debate is probably, we can't get into the debate of having it or not, is what correct, Bob?
And to hear from the public on their thoughts
On the workshop.
what should and should not be permitted.
At the workshop.
Yes, sir, at the workshop itself on the 14th.
I think we should have a workshop. This is an important issue.
Okay, well, we need a motion.
I make a motion that we have a workshop for use of Lake Jackson and public parks.
At the time presented.
Yes, Thursday, September 14th, 5:30 PM, City Council Chambers.
And I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Anybody in the audience? On the board, Kathy. Oh.
Because I've heard before.
State your name.
Nora Flores on 4290 Lakeview Drive, right next to them, which makes me the most impacted by any of this, and I don't have a complaint. But I want to have ask a question, if you can answer. I've heard complaints from the neighbors, or the people that live in Lakeview.
Mm-hmm.
What is the specific complaint about? Is it that these customers are utilizing these vehicles and going to their property and interrupting their peace of mind, going on their land, or noise level? What is the specific complaint? Or is it just, in general, we don't want business on Lakeview?
I think the complaint was that they were running a commercial business out of their residential home. That was the complaint we got, along with a couple other things
Okay, but
related to that.
they don't have the stuff in the, out there in the home. Like I said, they were authorized.
I think the
They said
big, I think the big issue.
They
is just-
wasn't
They-
ever
you know, they said-
authorized
they
to do
said
it. They wasn't
they could use the
authorized
park.
to do it. They wasn't authorized.
There's
to
a
do it.
So
number
the
of-
complaint is not
hold
that
on,
they're
hold on.
bothering anybody on Lakeview. That's what I wanna know.
We're not here talking about that specific property this evening. To the mayor's point, there's a number of issues to consider.
Right.
And that's what will be brought up, and the public's of course invited to the workshop should the council pass the motion to set it for September the 14th. And these issues can be discussed then.
Exactly, but you wanna be prepared for the issue just like you will be. So we wanna know what it is that the complaints are about, so we know what we have to say in the workshop and come prepared.
Okay, when you come to the meeting, I guarantee you hear every one of them.
And at a workshop,
point.
we cannot vote on anything
No.
binding.
Okay.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So it's not gonna be like, it's a workshop to surprise pass some resolution.
So I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't anybody saying, okay, somebody came into my properties that was renting
I'm sure there'll
things,
be people
and
here
we got
that-
bothered by that. They're interrupting my peace in my own home. So if that's not the complaint, then we'll take care of the other issues, but I wanted to know if that was it.
Okay, thank you.
So no, okay.
Kathy?
Bishop,
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Linda.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Cartwright.
Yes. Okay, next, 13B.
Agenda item 13B is termination of lease between the Museum of the Arts Building, or for the Museum of the Arts Building between the Highlands Art League and the City of Sebring. As you all are aware, on the consent agenda was a proposed lease for the Covelli House by the Highlands Art League. And we did that in exchange, council did that in exchange for them moving out of the Moda Building. They also indicated they wanted to move out of the Moda Building to move to the Covelli House, as they perceive that as a better location for their services, if you will. All I'm looking for in reference to this, other than execution of the termination of lease, is direction on where council might want to go with the Moda Building. We've had several inquiries, if you will, in reference to that property. And I'm inquiring as to whether or not you want to do a solicitation for leasing the property, whether you don't want to make that decision right now.
I think I would be fine with a lease agreement with someone as long as it was a short term or year to year. Just until we figure out what the final plan for the waterfront is.
Kind of like it's on the Visual Arts Center.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah. Hmm.
So staff will solicit
So
for
you're gonna have to.
proposals for use of the Museum of the Arts building.
I think that's a good idea. I would like it to see it stay something in the cultural direction as opposed to a commercial. I mean, that's just me.
Yeah.
I have heard, of course, the Historical Society's interested and the Highlands Little Theater. Is there anybody else that has come forward? Of course, the solicitation will bring people that might be interested. But I think a solicitation is a good idea.
Well, it's gonna be limited, Terry, because there's no elevator
Mm-hmm.
and the restrooms aren't compliant. So-
ADA compliant, yeah.
And I think there's only one downstairs, right?
There's two restrooms downstairs, and I'm gonna say that they may not be that far from ADA compliant downstairs.
Right.
Upstairs, there are no restrooms.
Plumbing.
There's actually plumbing and rooms already set up similar to the rooms downstairs. Theoretically, they may be able to be made ADA compliant, but you don't have a lift or an elevator to get to them.
Right. So that's probably gonna be a limitation.
Is that like a law that you have to,
Public access to the second floor, you have to have a lift.
really?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
I
if you
didn't know
have
that.
public access, it would have to be, you'd have to have an elevator.
did not
That's
know
what
that.
kind of limited these guys is that you couldn't get anybody up technically. Legally, I should say.
Can that be amended? Did you say, like, is it a federal law?
No, it's.
That's 88.
Yeah, it's federal law. Different things trigger its application to existing structures.
It's well beyond our powers to regulate.
I'm not going to war over that one.
I don't think you'd win.
No.
You short
Okay,
war.
so what's the pleasure of the council?
I'll put forward a motion to instruct staff to put an RFP, is that what you're asking for? Together for short-term leases of 1 year or less.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Is there any?
You also want to add execution of this lease to that, too?
Sure. Yes. And
Or
execution.
Termination, execution of this.
Termination.
Sorry.
Termination to the lease.
Yes, sorry.
Kathy knows how to write it. Whether we know how to say.
I'll say both of that when you're on the
Okay, so, is there any?
So then that building was built before that law came in?
Yes.
Oh, I see, okay. It's a lovely building.
Things change.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yes, sir. Get up there and tell us who you are.
Larry Felder, president of the Highlands Art League. And we're giving up the building, so I'm sort of a stakeholder, but I'm looking back on it, and we've been using it for quite some time, so we're pretty familiar with the building. But, you know, we don't favor one arts over the other, or one cultural entity over another, really, but from my understanding, because we've caught wind of some of the organizations that are interested in it. One organization's talking about using it for storage. Another organization's, the Historical Society, is talking about maybe using it for more of a museum type thing where the public has access to the culture rather than storage. So if it's worth anything from the past users, I think the Historical Society would be, you know, a good plan to go with, whenever that might be.
But they
Thank you,
would-
Larry.
Yeah, thanks, but they would still have to, if they wanted to put anything upstairs, they got to that's gotta have an elevator or wanna live.
They can store upstairs.
Yeah, they could store stuff.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
possibly use the downstairs for a museum public and then
Right,
use
right.
storage for us.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, would an elevator be something that a grant could be put in for, or? I would think you probably looked into that.
Yeah, we had so many issues with the building and its location and all the other things that went along with the security and stuff that there wasn't a single thing we could do to fix that. And, when you apply for a grant, there's a couple of years of wait. So, that didn't really work for us, but, I mean, yes, it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion, a second. Go for it.
Bishop.
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Mendel.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes. Last but not least, Miss Kathy.
Last week's for the payment of bills, please.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. I think everybody wants to pay them bills, so hold the board.
Bishop.
Yes.
Avery.
Yes.
Mendel.
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
Carlisle.
Yes.
And just one other thing, please be reminded, tomorrow night at 5:15 is the first public hearing on the budget. It'll be a very short meeting, so if you're late, you're gonna miss it.
Oh, we're not gonna have dinner?
No.
We got cheated this year.
You did.